Okay, welcome to today's video. Again, some camera problems, some mic problems, some problems all around. Doesn't matter, we are doing this. I'm recording on my MacBook, my face and my screen, so sometimes if you see the OBS thing pop up, I'm sorry, but I have something to show you guys. Let's see, I built this thing. It's called JAMTracks, and it's basically an application for you to go and, search your Deezer favorites, and you can see my profile was already logged in when I came in, so these are all the tracks that I favorited on Deezer, and you can also play them. Like if I click Cloud Cobain, it'll go to my Deezer and it'll play it. So you will need to be logged in to play this, but I'm just gonna close that because it's gonna make a noise. Yeah, so that's the application I want to show you guys today, and the reason I'm building this specific application is because I want to you know, show you how to work with the JAMstack. So the JAMstack is JavaScript, APIs, and markup. So basically, it's a front end of a static website that makes requests to like most probably a serverless implementation, like AWS Lambda functions or whatever. And in our case, we're going to use Netlify Functions to do like server type things. It's not really necessary, but just to showcase how it would work. And then the front end, we're going to be building a Nuxt.js application. Let's get started. Alrighty, so the first step in this project is to, create it. Um, we have some cool commands. You will need Node.js installed on your computer. This might be a little bit more of an intermediate video, but I think you can still follow along and make sense of the things that I'm trying to say. Um, So let's get started. The thing we want to do first is we want to create a. Let's just go to my projects directory quickly. Cd desktop slash projects, and then I'm gonna create a dir directory, saying or calling it JAMTracks app JAMTracks. Uh, see, let's just call it JAMstack music. So difficult. Okay, then we can cd into the JAMstack music app. Oops, not Q. JAMstack music. And now we have an empty. There's nothing in this folder. Everything is empty. So let's use npx. You will need Node.js. I'm not sure which version, but at least the long-term support version to use npx, because npm that comes with it will allow you to use npx. And then we'll use create Nuxt app. And we'll just do a dot because we want to create it in this directory. The CLI will ask you to give it a project name. I'll just keep it as the original and a Deezer favorites application on the JAMstack. Author name, Eckhart, or let's make it Kaizen Codes. And then we'll use Yarn, and we won't install a UI framework. We don't need an Express server. We don't need Axios. We don't need progressive web app. We don't need any of that. Don't need that. And we'll make it a universal app, and we'll install a JS config. So now it'll just install our dependencies. So now that that's been installed, we actually have to add two more dependencies. I'm just going to add Node SAS and what's the other one? It's called SAS. I'm going to get it right now. Something SAS loader, I believe. Let's add those two. So basically all that will do is it'll just allow us to use SCSS or SAS or some other languages in our style tags inside of our Nuxt application. So before getting started, let's just set up Netlify, and to have Netlify on your computer you have to say Netlify. I'm going to say yarn, or let's just I think I'll use npm for this, npm I globally netlify dash CLI, because I need to update it as well. Now that the Netlify CLI has been installed, we are good to go for the application. A few more steps that you have to do is you have to go to netlify.com and create a Netlify account. And this is very simple to do. It's free. You can actually use it to host your site for free for like quite a big amount of capacity and requests and all those things. So what I'll do is I'll just say Netlify init because that's what the CLI allows us to do right now. Netlify init, it doesn't have a git remote. Would you like to set one up? And then I guess we could say create and deploy site manually, but the best way to do this is to create a GitHub account. So what I'm going to do is I'm just quickly going to initialize this and then create a GitHub account online. So what I'll do is I'll just see if I have the directories. Yes, I do. And it's funny that it did not create a, let's do ls-al. Okay, so I think it did create a git ignore, yes, and it is a git directory. So let's create a remote git directory in our GitHub account. So I'm just gonna go to github.com, and then in GitHub I'm gonna click here and say new repository, and I'm gonna say what did I call this? I'm gonna say YouTube or JAMstack music YouTube. I'm just going to call it that. It's not very descriptive, but we'll create that repository so that we can get this remote link. So this remote link would be this one. We can Control C that or Command C. I can close this down, and then I'm going to say git remote add origin, and then paste that link in there, and then just go. So now it will, if we do git remote -v, we can see all our remote repositories. So let's do git add dot, or let's first open our code before we do any of those things. I'm using VS Code to edit this code, so you can use whatever editor you want, but I really enjoy VS Code's helpful tools and things like that. So first of all, what I want to do is create a netlify.toml file. What this will do, it just specifies some settings when we push this to our repo, because what Netlify does is you push to your GitHub repository. If it's connected to your Netlify site, Netlify will know about this. There's like a webhook communication thing going on, and then Netlify will automatically deploy that new site. So deploying requires building steps and all those things. But if you just set this netlify.toml, then you don't have to worry about anything. Whenever you push, your new site will be hosted up. It's very great. So first of all, we're going to set a bold tag, and we're going to say command, and we're going to say yarn generate. And we're using generate because we want to create the static files. We don't want to use build because build will make it a server client application. And then we're going to say I think it's called directory, or is it called publish? I'm not sure. But before we do that, let's do dev, and then we can say the dev port should be 3000, and the dev command should be yarn dev. So what this will do is, Netlify comes with a very cool system of having a local development environment. So we actually, and we have to set up, before I continue that, we have to set our functions directory equals to /functions, which we'll create just now. So Netlify dev is a system where we have a complete Netlify environment right on our local computer. We can use the functions, we can use our hosting or the emulator hosting, all those things. So it's very useful and efficient in creating web applications. There is I think it's called directory. I'm not sure what this, it might be publish. But I think the default is dist. Let's have a look on the Netlify docs, just to be sure. Netlify toml. And in the toml it says we need to use the publish. Yes, I was right on that one. Here we go, and we can use publish here equals, we want to set it to the dist file folder, because when we run yarn generate, then it will make a dist folder for us with all our application code inside. Let's save that. And then one last thing, I'm going to write all the markup, the view markup and stuff, but I'm not going to do the CSS part. I'm going to host up this CSS file on the repository, and then you can just go download it there and add it to your assets like this. I'm going to pull it down from another directory and put it in here. So basically, I just slammed everything in one file, and it's SCSS because we have that plugin installed. So just resetting the body, you'll see what site content and header means, and as we build this thing out, you'll understand what's going on. But I feel like wasting time on the styling might not be very important in terms of this video. So let's close that down, and for that to work we need to go to nuxt.config, and then in global CSS we have to say there's this nice little shorthand where we can do that thing, and then assets, and then theme.scss, and it'll compile down to normal CSS for us, so we don't have to worry about that. And then we can save that. Then the next thing I want to do is go create a functions folder. So the functions folder, you can imagine being sort of like the back end of a Netlify application. Back end, I mean like the server, but the idea is serverless. So functions are just like it's like a single function that you just quickly use and then it shuts down. It's not something that's up permanently. You don't want to, the point of it is to not try and run like full server applications and stuff like that. So in the functions, so what we have to do in functions is it needs to contain the name of our two functions. So I'm going to say get Deezer faves.js, and I'm going to create another one called get Deezer user.js, and this is what we'll use to get like that profile picture and the username, etc. I'll close that down for now. And then one more dependency in our main application, not in the functions. We have to go make sure you're in the JAMstack music or whatever you called it directory. I'm just going to say yarn add request, and this is for our function. Our build process will look for the if any dependencies are needed, and then it will look inside of our node modules for this dependency. And we need request because we're going to make a request to the Deezer API. So while that installs, we can have a look at our store and our pages and our layout. So layout is just the basic. I'm going to delete all of this. I'm going to close this down. Layout is just the where our like the code that wraps our entire application. So I'm going to say view, and then just for now I'm going to say main, and then in main we're going to put this Nuxt tag in here. So Nuxt is basically whatever route we visit, this will render in this Nuxt thing. And then for now we can just leave these two empty. Save that. We can close down default. I want to go to components, delete this logo.view, and to pages I'm going to select all and create an empty page, and just make its name equals name will be home, because that's what it is. It's the home page. And then for now we'll just say h1. Why is Emmett not working? h1 my favorite tracks, and then save that. So at the moment this will look very ugly, but it's just something for us to have. And then in our functions we can just for now do a exports dot handler, because this is the way a function should be written every time, equals, we can just do and it takes an event, it takes a context, and it takes a callback. And we'll explain what all these mean when we get to it. For now we'll just do callback. This is how we respond, and it starts with an error. We don't have an error. And then an object status code 200, and we can just give the body a string of text. This works, and save that. And then we'll just do the same for now in our get Deezer user file and save that. So how do we host this up? At the moment, we can look at the local version of this by saying yarn dev, and this won't run our functions for us because this is not a Netlify environment, but we can use this HTTP localhost to check out our application. It will probably look very ugly at the moment. It's currently building. It's loading the app, and you can see Nuxt gives us like a progress update. It's taking a little bit long, I think, because of the streaming application. I'm really using the power of this MacBook to its limits. Okay, that has completed. I just moved my face over to the right side because I noticed I was covering up my terminal. So that means this server is running. So we can go to our Google Chrome and you can see my favorite tracks. And this text has some styling because of that theme.acss that I added to the application. So far, so good. Now, what do we want to do? We want to host this up. Let's clear this out. We can say git add everything, and then we'll git commit -m, and we'll say we'll add a sparkles, and we can say initialize our app, and then we can just clear this and push to our remote repository. So we have to say push -use origin master, and this will send up our code to GitHub. So the first send won't host it up because we haven't linked Netlify yet, but now we can very simply just do Netlify link and wait for it to load. Da-di-da. Okay, so it's asking, how do you want to link this folder to a site? So I want to link it to JAMstack Music YouTube. Fetching site and looking for sites connected. No site found. Double check you're in the correct directory and a remote repo is configured. So what we can do, just to simplify this, is go to our Netlify account. Let's say netlify.com and log in, probably. 54321, slow internet, log in. And then in the login, I'm already authed, so I can just enter. And then I'm going to create a new site from Git. And I'm going to add my GitHub. I should already be authenticated. That's good. It's going to redirect me. Now it's going to give me all my repositories. What do I want to use? I want to use the JAMstack Music YouTube. We want to deploy master. We want to run yarn generate this. See, it already knows this from our netlify.toml. And now we can just deploy our site. And it's as easy as that. The first deploy was manually done by us, but from now on, when we push to that GitHub repo, it'll automatically deploy our website. And we can change our domain a little bit because it's kind of ugly. Let's give it a new name. Edit site name. Jam tracks or JAMstack music youtube.netlify.com. Save. Let's see if that's available. Yes, it is. And now we have a new domain. Let's look at our deployment. How is this going? We can even view the steps in a log. It looks like it has an unmet peer dependency. It doesn't matter. It will still work. And it gives us all our information about our deployment. The cool thing is, if we deploy with Netlify, every time we deploy, it caches our deploy. So it just gets faster, and it knows which changes to deploy, which files to upload, and all those things. So now it's compiling our server and our client. Looks like it's done. It's prepping our functions. Looks like it's done. Saving, deploying, uploading, and the site is live. Let's go look at our site. Boom, JAMstack Music. We have a site that is live, just like that. Very quick. You don't even have to build this app if you don't want to, because that was a big part of the video, how to use Netlify to create a JAMstack app. But we have so much more to go. We have functions, we have cool like API requests, how to deal with the data, all those things. So now that we've linked our Netlify, we've hosted our Netlify thing, we can say Netlify link, and now it'll work for us. It will ask us if we want to use a site ID or site name. I want to use the site name. Actually, I want to use the GitHub repo. Sorry about that. Netlify link, it's fetching all of our data, and we can use this, fetching sites, looking for sites connected. Oh, it knows exactly which one to connect. Netlify makes our lives so easy, especially in the world of the web, where everything can get so complicated with servers and clients and blah, 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 blah. This is just a breeze. Let's first do our Nuxt application. I'm going to use a tag because this is SSR. It might, it might interfere with our rendering. So I'm just going to put this whole app in a client-only tag for now. What this will do is it won't check the difference between the server side and the client side. All those warnings would be suppressed and we would be good. So after doing that, we can go look at our pages, our index page. And our index page has a pretty simple layout because we're going to use a lot of components to make this thing more readable. So for our index page, what we need is just a div with a class of, an ID of site home. And inside of this site home ID, we are going to create our header over here. I'm just going to do a header. Why is this? Okay, I'm going to do a header tag. And then after the header, we are going to do a section tag, which will be like the section for our content. For now, we can just remove that. And then in our header tag, we want to do, we can give it a class as well of site header. And all these styles have already been written in that theme file that I gave you. And then we want to, for now, I'm just going to add this div with the class of loader. And this is that thing you saw when the app is still loading. It's going to show by default now, so I'm going to just leave that there for now, and we can we can edit it later. And then after the loaded thing, we want to add another div, which will be the contain like the contents of the header. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to add a class to this. So the class should be site header container, and then the content in there we can put a h1, which will be that site title. So we can do class site title, and then the I can actually just leave that as one line, and then I'm just gonna put in here your favorite Deezer tracks. And then below the site title, I'm going to do two things. I want to create a display for if it's in the search mode, and a display for if it's in the user, like the user is logged in. So firstly, I'm going to look for the display with the search mode. And that's going to look like, it's going to have a div of a class of header dash ID dash search. And then in there we can do another div, because we're going to use that div to conditionally show the content or not if the site is loaded. That's how that loader goes when we click on the buttons. And then input, we can give this class of header input. And I just have to read the class names off of there, because otherwise it will mess with my the theme that I wrote. And then below the input we can put a button, and the button is going to have the text of search. And below the button we can do a small little a tag, and in the a tag we'll give it a href of how to find it, or for now we'll just do a hash. And then we'll do a p tag inside here, and then we'll say the class equals the header small text, and then the text inside of that p tag will be how to find it. So basically how to find your Deezer ID if you don't know where it is. And that's it for the markup of this page. We'll do the logic in after we wrote all the markup, so that we can have all our stuff separated. And for now, I'm just going to write all the index markup in one page, and then we'll break it down into components, because that's kind of how I develop as well. I write everything in one page and then find things that can be broken down into components, and then just make them components. So the next thing is when the user is logged in. So we can do, it's going to be quite simple. It's going to be right below this one, and it's going to have the same div.headerID, but this time it's going to be a display. And then in there we'll have an image. The source for now, it doesn't have a source. We can just make the source a placeholder maybe, or something like that. Let's just remove the image for now. We can edit that at a later stage. And then we want a p tag with the class of username, and in there we can just do user for now, static data, and then a tag, which has a class of switch text, which is basically if we want to log out. And we can say switch accounts, and we can save that. And that should be it for this header piece. And now we can move on to the content of the index file. So the section down here will have, and let's just add a class name to this so that we don't forget. We can do user image. And then in section, this is where our content would be displayed, like all the results from the searches and stuff. So in the content, we want to give it we're going to give it a class of site content. And then inside there, we can just do a h1 with results. And then that is if we have results. And then down here, we want to add our songs. And then below that, we want to, that's it for that section. And then this section we're adding now is if there is no results found. So this will have conditional stuff. But for now, we can just add this and say h1 no results, and save that. So that should be, first we have to create our songs. So the songs will be in this, below this h1. So what we can do here is do div.songs container, which will contain our songs, and we can put all our songs inside of this container. And the way we want to do that is by creating a card for it. So we are going to loop over the data. So we'll just add one for now, but we'll loop over the data, and then we'll have many. So we'll do div.song, and then in the song we'll have an image with the class of song image, and we'll just comment that out for now because we don't have a source. And then below the image, which will be flexed, so it's actually next to each other, we'll have another div with the song details. And then the song details will have a song title, dot song title, and in the song title we'll have just a it has to be an h1, not a div. We'll just have the title in there. So let's just do fake title, and then below the song titles we'll do song details extra. This is like the time and all those things of the song and the artist. So in song details extra, we'll do a p with the song artist class, and then I'll just put in cool artist. And then below the p tag, we'll do another p tag with this strange, middle dot thing, because I think it looks kind of cool to put there. I'm just going to paste it in there, and then p dot song length. So this is the time that the song plays for. So I'm just going to put 120 seconds, which is 2 minutes. All the hard code will replace with dynamic code once we get to actually, doing that. So below the song details, we want to start doing the play container. So the play container is just like the play button that we can click to go to the Deezer song play container. And then below that, we just want to put an song player. And then the href for now will just be a hashtag. And then in the A, we want to put a image, because that image is going to be a play button, and I'll import that. I'm going to put it in the static file, so play solid.svg, and we need to give this a width so that it doesn't go to its max width. Width equals 25 pixel, and the alt we can just put here as song play button. So we need that thing. I have it over here in my other files, over somewhere in here, static. I'm just going to drag that over here, static over there, and then for the, yeah, that'll be it. We can close that down. It's just an SVG, and save this. So there we have basically our full markup of this application. So this is very crowded. It's not a big application, so it's not a lot of markup, but I don't like the crowdedness of this, so I like dividing everything up into components. So let's create those components. First of all, we want the app header, and this is just the standard to write app and then whatever the thing is, and then we can do app songs.view, and we can do app song card, which is like a single song .view, and we can do a what else? We can do a app user search .view, and we can do a app user display .view. So this is in the header, the conditional, either the display of the user's profile pic or the display of the normal, search function. So let's close all these things and go through them one by one. So app header, what do we want to put in here? First of all, we want to do view and then go to our index. And what I'm going to do over here is just split this up. I'm going to add this over here and then just open the index on this side. So we know that our app header needs to be the whole shebang from all the way up to this header to here. And we can just remove that and put that in our app header and save that. But we also kind of want to split this into two different, because here we have a ID search and we have a display. So we actually want to put this user display view. We can remove this from the app header. I'm actually going to do it from here. And I can do user search there, so user display, and then we remove this user display part from here. We can just do X, put that in there, save, and for the search we can do site header search, which will be up till there. X and view, and paste that in there. So that divides our app header up. We will need to import and export this stuff, but so far so good. Okay, so that handles the header. Next we want to handle the app songs. So the app songs will have a view, and we can split this again up here, and then what we want to do is open our index, and then we have our app songs. So we can take this entire songs container, just remove that and put that in here and save. But we also want to put our song card, which will start over, we can open it here, app song card, close songs, we'll do view, so we can do app songs and remove this song and put it in our app song card. And the reason I'm doing this is just to separate some of the logic and be able to do conditional stuff and loop over whole components instead of single elements, and just to package everything together. So that should handle our the base markup of the page. Now we have to make sure that everything is imported to where it should be. So let's do that. In the header thing, we'll do under script, we'll do import app user display from that nice little shorthand. I'm going to do add / components, and in components we want to use app user display display, and save that. And what we can do is just Control C, Control V, and then instead of app user display, we can do app user search, and save that. And now what we want to do in here is we can just do components and set app user display and app user search, and then below the H1 we can do app user display, and it can be a self-closing tag, and we can do app user search self-closing, and that's it for the header. What we want to do in the index page then is to import that header. We can do script import app header from add / components, and we can just import that app header from there and put it in our components in our page. Components, we want the app header, and then right where the content starts, we want to put app dash header, and we can self-close that. And then the site content, we need to put our results. So for the results, we need to import our app songs component as well. So we can do import app songs from add / components / app songs, and then in our components we can do app songs, and then we can put that right below our results. And save that. So we'll have to feed all the song data and stuff to that, but we're not working on logic for now. We're just getting all the components and markup set up. And I'm doing it quite quickly because the logic is quite long and this video is already carrying on. So let's get this over with so we can start with the logic. If you, I might make another YouTube video that slows down into view template syntax and how to do components, but this Nuxt.js just makes it very easy for us to do. So that's why I'm kind of rushing through it. So do we have everything? In our app songs, we need to import our app songs cards. Import app song card from add / component / app song card. And then we can do in export default, we can do components, and then again app song card, and then right inside here we can do the app song. Let me just make sure. Yeah, right in here we can do app song card. Boom. We'll also have to give some data and looping to this thing because we want all the songs, so we'll loop over the data that we get. But currently that is our markup, and I'm pretty sure that is all we need for now. So I think let's look at this. Let's do yarn dev. Let's see if there's any build errors or client-side errors. Okay, command open. It's loading. And it's building and building and building. Let's see if we get any errors. Ooh, I saw a red flash over there. This dependency was not found. Components app song card. That's what's up. components and save. Rebuild for me, please. Second build is always faster. It's reloading. Boom. Okay, so obviously a lot of things look broken here. The title should be white. All this should be aligned, but the problem is we showing this loader, we showing all different kinds of things at the same time on the page that we should not be showing. So I think the best way to fix that is to first sort out the data, because a lot of the conditional stuff depends on the data, and we don't want to be writing fake data and then trying to fix everything. And then so let's get the data first. So to do that, I'm just going to close down the server again and close down this terminal, and then we'll start with our Netlify functions. So the Netlify functions are going to be very simple. It's just going to be one little request. So what we need to do for both of these is we need to import that request module equals require, and you can use Axios. I tried using what is it called? I tried using the node fetch, but I was having some errors on AWS itself, so I just decided to use request, which I installed in the dependencies. And then we want to set some headers just to make sure we don't get any core stuff. So we can do access allow access control allow origins. It's basically saying which clients may request data from us, and we'll just say all for now. That'll be fine. And then in here, what we want to do is we want to create these URLs. So I have the Deezer URLs over here. I'm just going to copy this from here and paste it in my current file. That is the tracks URL, because we're getting the faves. So there's an ID parameter here that we need, and that ID we'll get from the request itself, because we're going to give it in the URL. So I'm going to say const ID equals the event dot I think it's called query string parameters dot ID. So and the cool thing is Deezer is kind of nice about the format of the string. First we have to check some conditionals, like if there's no ID, or we can just do a request, because if it fails we can just we can do request.get the tracks URL, and then after that we use like a callback function which will take the error, the response, and the body, and we can use that to check if we have data back. So if there's an error, first of all, we want to make sure not to send anything, so we can do this callback inside this error. What was that? We can do the callback inside the error, and it's not going to be 200, it's going to be 500, and it's going to say error. I think error at server. Very simple. You can kind of rewrite your errors and stuff. I just want to get this thing to show the most important steps. So after we handle that if condition, we know that we don't have an error. So we can actually return this callback as well, so that we just escape from there. And then if we get out of there, if we don't have an error, that means that we can do a callback with null, and we can say status code will be 200, and the data will be the body, so we can just do body, and the headers will be the headers, so we can just do headers. What this is saying is just body, but it's redundant, so I'm just going to say body, because it knows that this body is that body. So that's it for our favorites. We can save that. Let's do our user next. For the user, pretty much the same thing. I can actually just copy paste this, select all, copy, select all, paste. But instead of ID tracks, it's just going to be ID, and if there's an error, we could add a 404 maybe saying user doesn't exist, which might not be the error, but that's fine. We'll just act like it is the error. User does not exist, and then we need to add our headers to this. I didn't add it in the previous one. I'll go fix that. And then the same callback is sent. We'll get all the user data. And we could have done this from the client, but it's very if there was some like authentication stuff and you left it in your function, that means it's not available in the client. People can't hack your app. This is all open data, so it's really fine. But this was just in case. And now, for the client side, the truth, the center of truth of our application would be the store, the Vuex store. So first of all, we need to make an index.js, and we'll create modules for this. We'll create a user.js, and we'll create a songs.js for all our song data. I'm going to remove this README. And then the only thing in Nuxt you have to do to use your store is say const. I don't think we need a. Let's do const actions equals this. We'll only use actions, and we have to export this from this file. We'll only use actions in our index called initialize. And the initialize is a function that takes a dispatch and a commit, I think. And we'll leave that like that. So what's up, guys? Sorry, the sound cut out on this part. The only thing I'm doing here is I'm setting up the songs store. So for the state, we have to create a data property because the songs file makes its own module. So we can access it through this.store.state.songs.data. And then mutations we will use to change the data in songs, and all we have to do is create a name for that mutation and then say that the state.data equals that payload. And the actions is what we'll use to, do requests or do search for the user songs and stuff like that. So the first action will be an asynchronous search user songs, and we'll use the fetch API to call our backend. So our backend has functions, basically our functions, and they all have their own URL, and the URL is shaped .netlify /functions / the name of the function. So instead of in development, we have to set the HTTP localhost to 3456. So that is what the process.env.node.env thing is. The sound will return soon, and we'll do the exact same thing for the users. Thanks. Copy all of this over. Oops. Just to save some time, and then instead of user, that's correct. This has to be Deezer faves. And then in the user one, we'll still use data, state.data equals payload, so all of that is the same. But instead of search, we have to do set user is the one action that we need. Also takes a commit and an ID. And then what we need to do is fetch URL plus, and we actually have to change this as well, plus ID. ID equals ID. So we have to do the same thing because we're using query parameters. This is basic GET requests. If it was a POST request, we could send our ID through with a POST request, but that gives us like application JSON issues, and it's just very tedious. We're only getting data, we're not posting, so it's fine to use a query parameter. And then now instead of songs, we can do user. And the first thing we want to do is do local storage, because we want to cache this user, so when they log in next time, they can actually see their data unless they choose to log out. So we're going to set it to Deezer user, and we're going to say user.id that we got back from the request. And now we can do set user to the actual user that we have as well. So our user is available in our application, and this has to be set user. So I think we're doing good on time, 30 minutes, halfway through this. We still have the logic in our components, but I'm kind of rushing through this. I want to give you guys like a brief overview. It's not very detailed, descriptive. Let me know in the comments if you guys want very detailed, like maybe a series of videos that I go into heavy depth, or if you think that there's enough of those out there and you just want to see me build stuff. So another action we'll need is another async thing that oh no, it doesn't have to be async because it's not an async operation. We can just do remove user, and all this does is when we log out, so it just takes a commit, and all it does is it local storage dot clear, and it commits the user to null. There we go. So this just removes the user from the interface, which will cause it to go back to the search function, and then save that. So that is it for getting and setting our data. Let's go to our, so at the moment, let's see what happens if we start up this application with Netlify Dev. It won't really do anything, but let's just see if our functions run and if they're happy and excited about being around in our application. Because sometimes you think you got it all, you think you're a smart programmer, but then life throws you under the bus. Okay, so 3000 works. Our functions are on there. 888, 88888 is working. Let's see if we reload this, what is happening. Is it building yet? And we can inspect as well to see what these requests are doing. And we can go back to this thing. I don't want to be in phone mode. Okay, so as soon as I paused the video, this thing gave me a socket hang up. Everything's broken. It's fine. We can do this. Let's try again. Netlify dev. Come on, Netlify, show me the money. So this is quite cool that you can do this if your computer is a bit faster than mine, because at the moment I think I'm operating at like 4 gigabytes of RAM, but I think it's damaged. I'm not sure, but it's fine. Let's see if it at least shows us that it's building or something like that. Let's use 51750. Okay, so my computer took a little bit of a rest and it's working now. I killed the process that was using 3000 and it's loading here. Currently nothing is happening with our what do you call it, the functions, because we aren't invoking it anyway, and we haven't styled our components yet to make it look pretty. So let's do that. We'll keep that open. Maybe it'll not break. But first of all, what we want to do is when the page loads, we want to set like this this thing to check if there's a user, so that we can populate the data. So first of all, we haven't set index in the store, so this is where we'll do all this stuff. I'm going to copy and paste this because I'm a little bit lazy and just explain what this does. So what this is going to do is it just checks if it gives us data loaded and search loaded. So while it's searching, we want to hide the interface and show that loading thing, and data loaded is we want to show that loading thing while fetching the initial load. And we just set those two things through mutations, and initialize is what we'll use to check. So if there's a user in our thing, we want to dispatch set user with that ID and get the songs and then show it on the screen, and then we can change our set loaded and stuff. So let's go to our layouts, because we want to do that in our layout, our top level component, and that's very easy. What we'll do is we'll set a created function or method, and then we can do this asynchronously, and we can say if process dot browser, just to quiet down the CLI for now. Not browser, process dot client. Process dot client. Then we can do in here, we can say await this dot $store dot dispatch the initialize action that we created. Initialize. So what this is going to do is in our store index, it's going to first check if we have that user. If there's a user, we dispatch to these things, which is in user and song slash that. So we dispatch to here, we set the user with the ID that we gave it, and then for songs, we set the user the songs with the user that we gave it. So there could be some more checks like regex on the thing so that it doesn't set like non-existing stuff or like that, but for now it works. It just shows like either a random person's profile if you enter a random number, or it shows like an empty profile with no results. Then you have to switch to another account, but that's fine for now. And then after initializing, we'll either have that. So let's do all the conditional logic in the pages, because now we do have some data. So first of all, let's handle the case where there is nobody, so we have to log in, and that'll be in our app header where we search for the user. So we'll do that on this button. So the thing that we have to do is we have to make sure that this only shows if things are loaded, and we will need all this this logic in our data properties. So loaded we'll get from here, from a computed property, and then the input will take a v model of user ID, and it'll take we have the class, so we need a placeholder as well that just says enter your Deezer ID, and then save that. And then in here we actually, the button as well, we want to add a event listener, so we can add click equals update the user info. So if there's a user, then change who the user is, all those things. So the first thing we want to do is set a data property, and this will be a function that returns an object, and we want to set that user ID property there, and for now it'll be null. And then after that we want to do computed property, and the computed property will have the loaded function, which basically just returns the store. So this dot $store, and this isn't a module, so it'll just be store.state dot search loaded. So this is for the searcher. So if this is true, then it'll show. If it's false, then it won't show. So while it's loading, it won't show. And then in our methods is our next thing. We want to handle that click thing. So we can say methods, and then we can say async update user info. And this doesn't take anything. We have the data, so we can do this dot $store dot commit. What we want to do is set search loaded, because we want to set it to false now, so everything doesn't load. And then we can do if this dot, just to make sure it's not empty, if this dot user ID is not equal to that. We can do more checks as well, but this is okay for now. We want to dispatch those actions in those modules. So this dot store, first of all, we want to get the songs. This dot store dot search user songs. I think that's what we called it. With the no, that's not what we want to do. We want to say this dot store dot dispatch the action that is called that in a string, but it's also a module, so we have to add that module name in front of it, slash. So it's going to be songs / that, songs / search user songs. Okay. And the second thing would be this dot user ID that we get from the input. I'm going to copy that, paste that, and instead of songs we'll do user, instead of search user songs we'll do set user, and we'll give it the user ID. So in this case, sometimes it could set undefined, it could be, but it won't break the application. It will just return like empty things, and you can maybe take it upon yourself to edit some of that code and push it up. So what we want to do next, after all that is complete, we want to do we want to reset the search loaded because it's done. Set search loaded, and then we can set it to true. Cool. Save. That is it for our app user search. Right now we have a few things to still do, like the conditionals for the other stuff. And before testing this, I'm just gonna do the conditional stuff. So the next thing the conditional will be in is in the header. So in the header we want to only show this loader if loaded, and the loaded thing will be exactly the same as the I'm going to add this computer property and explain it for the sake of time. So again, we add a computed property, and this updates every time these things change. So the user we get from the store. Remember, it's a module, so it's user.data, and then data loaded is from the normal index, so it's just state.data loaded and then loaded. So for the loader, we want to only show it with a v if it is loaded. If it's not loaded. So the loader has to show when it's not completely loaded. And then for the site header container, site header, this isn't the right, this should be content. We want to add conditionals here as well. So only if data loaded and loaded, we have to show that. So it doesn't show both at the same time. And then for the Deezer favorite tracks, we actually have to add conditionals on this as well. So we only show this if there is no user in our store. If there is a user in our store, and this will show if there is no user in our store. We can just do a v else. Yeah, so that should handle that. And in case there is a user, we have to add this user equals user, because we have to give it the user. And now we can go, we have that prop on there, so we have to go to user display, and we have to give it this prop. So the prop will be user, and then basically that's what we're giving it from this this thing, user equals user. And if we put this prop here, it knows to accept a user. So in the display card there we can use this user thing. So first of all, we can now uncomment this, and for the source we can make this something like that, and we can set this to user.picture, and then the alt can just be like user image. And then on the username we can make this dynamic and set it to user, and this is what we're getting back from our function, user.name, and then switch accounts can stay like that. But on click, we don't want to give it an href, we want to give it an @click listener. So @click, what we want to do is change username, basically log out. And we did create that in our store, so we can just do methods, and we can do change username, and we can do this asynchronously. No, actually we don't have to. We can do change username, and then result equals window.confirm. We just want to make sure that they want to do this. What's up, guys? I'm back. Change of clothes. Let this computer rest a little bit because it has been on fire for the last 5 minutes. Literally had to throw water on it to make it go off. So where were we? Window.confirm. So whatever this does, what this thing does is that it just asks for some user feedback. So if they click that switch account button, we want to make sure that this is what they want to do. So we just give like a little pop-up saying, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? So that they just don't make a mistake, an accidental mistake. Then the next thing we want to do is we want to use this result, because it's either going to be true or false. If they said yes, it's going to be true. If they said no, it's going to be false. So let's say if result, we can just do that. Then we can say this.store.dispatch. What we want to do is use that remove user action that we created. So user/remove user, and then below that we just want to commit this $sign store dot commit. What we want to commit here is just set our songs to nothing, otherwise it will still show the old songs. Song slash set underscore songs, and we want to set that to an empty array, and then save that. That should give us that should let us change users. Let's see how our app is looking at the moment. Let me just get this set up. So at the moment our app is running on localhost 3000 on Netlify dev, so our functions are working. So we have this loading thing now that's just running by itself, and the app looks a little bit better because of those conditions that we added. Let's go look at the loader. It's in the app header, I believe. So if it's not loaded, which means that in our layout, let's look at our inspection. It's going to be a few console errors probably. Hopefully that could help us. And our worst nightmare might have unknown action type initialize. Too many T's, too many I's. Let's put in just one T and one I, and that should fix it. Let's go to layouts and default. That's where we dispatch the action, and we just want to say initialize, not initialize. Initialize. Save. Let's see if this changes it. Okay, cannot read property picture of undefined. Let's look at our application tab, local storage, localhost. There's nothing there. So now we have to only make sure that these pictures and things are, so there's no conditional if there's a user on this on the picture and stuff, but at least in our app header we said that only if a user we should give it that stuff. But I suspect that our app songs is not getting data, so now we have to set our app songs. So the way we do that is we're going to set a prop in here, and the prop is just going to be songs, and we'll get this prop from the parent, which is the page itself. If we go to index, we can look at the app songs, and we want to import our songs into here. So the way we do that is we create a computed property on this default object, and we say songs, and then the songs will be this dot $store dot state dot songs dot data, and we have to return that. And for the prop, we have to add that on the app songs item here. So we can just say songs equals songs. So now we're feeding these songs into this app songs, so it should be available. And we also want to add some conditionals here. We only want to show this no results if data is loaded and the search is loaded and the and the song has to be, there should be no songs and no song.data.length. So we can put this in brackets and say songs.data or no songs.data.length. And then we should close this. So what this is doing is just checking if the data is loaded and the search is loaded and there's no song data or there's no song data length, then we want to show no results. For the we actually want to add a class here as well, site content, because it's this it should only render if this doesn't render. So this should get a conditional as well. We should say if songs.data and songs.data.length. So we should only show these results if we actually have some songs. Okay, that should do that. For the we should add songs.data here because there's a data property. Then for the data loaded, we need to create that computer property, data loaded, and we'll just return that from the store. Return this dot dollar sign store dot state dot data loaded. And then for the search loaded, we could map state here as well, but I'm leaving Vuex mapping out of this. We can do you can go check out my Vuex videos on more complicated Vuex mappings. Okay, so for the search loaded, we can just do this dot store dot state dot search loaded, and that should do the trick for those things. So now we need to go to our app songs and make sure that we loop over our songs for the card. So we're going to say v4 song in songs, which we're getting from the parent. The key will be song.id because that will be a unique ID. And the song, which we are going to set as a prop in the song card, will be the song itself. That should do it for the app songs. And for the app song card, we have to now get that data. So in the app song card, all of this fake data needs to be replaced. So there's a prop coming in. We'll say props. Let's say song, because this is only one song that we're receiving. And now we can set this image, the source tag, we can set to song.picture. I think it's song.picture. Oh, song.medium picture, I think, is the song.album.cover medium is what it is. And then the alt we can just make album cover. And then for the title, we can just do song.title. For the artist, we can do song.artist.name, I believe. .name. And for the time, we can just do song.duration. And this should give us all the details about the song that we currently looking at. So let's go look at our browser if something is missing. It's still not finding picture. So if we go look at the console and we look at app user display, because that's where the error is coming from, it's saying that it can't find this picture. It doesn't know what user.picture is. And it should only say that if it is rendering. So there should be some checks in here to make sure that we don't render the picture if we don't need to. So let's go to the app header, and then on the display we have to use this vif user. So we have to go check at our store if the user exists. So store.data, this shouldn't be an array because that will equal to an object, which means it exists. So we can just make it a string because user will always be a string. And then go back to our app, reload. And now we have this interface. So this is what the interface should look like. Now let's try to add my Deezer ID to see if it works. So to get your Deezer ID, it's pretty simple. Just log into your Deezer account. I'm going to do this off screen quickly. Sorry guys to interrupt, but there has been another sound interruption. So to get your Deezer account, you just have to log in, click on your profile picture, go to your name, and it will be in the URL bar. If you're on the application, you have to go to your Deezer My Music tab, and then click at the top right, there's a gear. If you click on that, it'll show you your account. If you click on that, you'll see your user ID. Further, in this part, I only pasted my ID into that search bar and then looked at the network responses in the console. So ID was not defined, and in the upcoming parts, we'll try and debug this ID thing and find out what happened. Just forgive me. And then now we can try again. It's searching and it went through, but it kind of failed to fetch because it says access to fetch at this location from origin. Um, no access control allow origin header is present on the requested resource. But if I remember correctly, but the cool thing is we can see that it did append our ID correctly and it did make the request to the function. So at least we know that we got that going. But let's go look at the Deezer favs function to see if we forgot to put on our headers, and I'm pretty sure we probably did. And I'm pretty sure, here we go, it's in headers. And is this correct? Access control allow origins. Isn't it supposed to be origin? I don't think it's origins. Yeah, it's just origin. So that's the wrong header name. We can save that, and then in this one we have to fix. Oh, it's already. Yeah, we have to fix it here as well. Save that. Go back to the application. Reload. First, maybe check our local storage if it didn't save the wrong ID. Doesn't look like it did. Let's refresh. Try. So now we have our server running again, and we can go back to our application. Try that again. Search. Still getting blocked by cause. Internal server error. In this part of the video, the audio cut out once again, but the fix I did to the server was just to set the index by ID in those like square brackets, but the actual mistake was the parameters string was misspelled like I corrected earlier in the video. So just make sure that you spell parameters correctly and you don't have like the worst English in the world like I do. But as you can see, it got the data to us, and right now we're going to fix the size of these images. Something like 200 pixel or 100 pixel. Let's make it a height of 100 pixel. Just so that it doesn't overshoot like that. And then what we also want to do is on the href, we want to make this dynamic, and we want to set this to song.link. So if you have Deezer installed on your phone and you click on this link, it will automatically take you to the application. Otherwise, it'll take you to the website. So let's resize. Yeah, looks pretty good. Everything is in order. So that is our full application. To host this up onto Netlify, you already know what to do. You git add, git commit, git push, and it automatically hosts up to the internet. So just one thing you need to ensure, let's try hosting it up and see if it works. So let's git add, git commit, and we'll add a message saying MVP, because sometimes the hosting environment tends to be different in some ways. Let's just do the MVP, and then we can git push. The important thing to remember is that whatever dependency you use in your functions folder, you have to install it into your node modules in your app. Make sure that you have that, because it's going to look in there for the dependencies when it like zips it up and sends it to AWS. So this should be building now. Let's go to Netlify to see if we can watch the build. Let's log in and close this console. The console tends to take a little bit more memory. Alright, so it's this one, and the deploy is building at the moment. Let's see. 2 functions upload, post-processing done, site is live. Let's look at the deploy. Okay, it looks fine. Let's try and add our thing. It's loading, and it worked. Great, out of the box, everything is online. This is going to be taken down soon. If you want to visit the online version of this, I did put my version on jamtracks.netlify.com. This is the version that I coded before. It works exactly the same. Put that up. Um, it'll give you the same results. So yeah, that is our Jamstack video for today. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see me make this application into a progressive web app. And if you don't know what a progressive web app is, it's a web version of a mobile app basically. So it removes all the clutter around your browser, like the search bar and all those things. And then another feature of it is that it creates an icon on your desktop or your home screen or your wherever you put your apps. And the other thing is that it should work offline. So to create a web app, we have to create like a service worker to cache the data in between and then refresh it whenever there's new data. So that's a whole video, a video of a topic of its own. And you guys should let me know in the comments if you want to see me make this app into an offline functional app. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You learned something maybe. If you did, give us a like or subscribe. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace. Oh yeah, before I forget, um, a special shout out to my little nephew, Yaku, and my sister.